Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Juan Rodriguez, your host of the Allyz Community Podcast. And I am so excited. Today, we are definitely shifting gears. And our promise to the Orlando community was to educate you, to inform you, and empower you when it's time to make a claim and dealing with those giants insurance companies. And that's the reason why they don't like this man over here. But you know something, at the end of the day, I am able to sleep at night and be able to give back to my community because my community has been great to me, and that's my promise. And today we're going to be talking about homes claims. And here in Florida, I know all my customers when they walk through my doors about my vehicle, about their vehicles, I'm asking them, "Hey, have you had your house roof checked?" Because a lot of my customers are getting a lot of letters telling them that they need to replace their roofs. And believe it or not, many of them are telling, "Yes, I do. How do you know?" It's like, "Hey, everybody's getting them. I got them too." So today's podcast, we have two amazing experts of home claims. One of them is Eduardo Pimentel with Pimentel Law Firm here in Florida. And the other one is Christopher Smith with No Stress Insurance Claims. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Allyz Community Podcast. How you guys doing?
Thank you. We're doing great. Thanks for asking. And yourself?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited because I'm actually walking in my calling and doing what I love, which is educating and empowering the consumer. I don't know, it's something that I'm passionate about. And I've been learning in the last couple of days so much after hanging out a little bit with Christopher. It's just amazing. How you doing, Christopher?
Doing fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. So please, guys, can you tell our community a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and what your company's all about?
Um,
Let's
so
start with,
uh,
let's start with Christopher first, really quick. Yeah.
I have a public adjusting firm. We are operating three offices in the state of Florida under the name No Stress Insurance Claims International. We assist homeowners, of course, against the insurance company for claims. I'm a licensed public adjuster, and I've been doing it for the past 8 years. And I'm here to bring some information, hopefully informative and productive to some homeowners' lives.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And what about you, Eduardo?
Well, I'm a licensed attorney here in the state of Florida. The name of my law firm is Pimentel Law. We represent homeowners that are either wrongfully denied or underpaid in their insurance claims. So later stage after the insurance company makes a determination, that's generally when we get involved. And that's what I limit my practice to. I don't do anything else other than helping out homeowners and property owners.
I'm surprised people get short paid on home claims too. That's new for me.
Yes, it happens all the time.
Oh wow, amazing how they don't advertise that on the TV. That's for
Oh,
sure.
definitely not. Definitely
But
not.
but one thing that I love is how one thing that I tell everybody, I say it here publicly, I am not against insurance companies. I am against the unfairness and the bad faith, how they make their claims handling process. If they were doing fair business, hey, a loss is a loss. Consumers, I understand a lot of people want to take advantage of the insurance companies. And I always explain on the Allies Community Podcast, this is a relationship of three people. You got the insurance, you got the claimant, and then you have the repair person. Whenever two of those align with in bad faith, the third one is going to lose. So if you have the insurance company partnering with a provider, a contractor, you're not going to be the consumer. It's not the actual consumer. It's the real consumer. The insurance company is. Why? Because they want to get those multi-million dollar referrals. So at the end of the day, there's a there's an ethical and moral duty of the contractor to be like, all right, I'm the good guy. I want to do what's right. But if I don't save this insurance company and I cut corners, and I make them happy, they're not going to send me millions of dollars of referrals. And that's why we always recommend talk to an expert that is going to give you and educate you on what is best for you, then make informed decisions. Because if the homeowners aligns with the contractor and they're like, all right, let's defraud this insurance company, let's make a bad claim here, make it worse. The insurance company is not getting a fair treatment either. And I don't agree into that. And I know there's a lot of that going in everywhere. And that's the reason why they act the way they are. But what I stand is the people who do things right by the book, who are honest and ethical, document everything, provide all the documentation to without shadow of a doubt that claim needs to be paid, just pay it. Don't play the game. Don't try to starve the guy that is doing things right just because you don't like him. And that's what happens in this world. And everybody tells me, Juan, you're crazy. You're trying to go after these giants. I'm like, let it be. But at the end of the day, I'm able to sleep at night and tell my customers I did right for you. And I empower you and educate you so you can make informed decisions. If you give up throughout the process and you throw the towel, at least I did my part. But I was your ally in your corner. And if you lose, because if somebody does a poor repair in your roof, on your storm damage, water damage, and your house gets evaluated at the time of resale, or you're having problems after the repairs, you're the one who's going to live with the consequences, not the insurance company. The insurance company paid for the claim, and they're like, we're done. It's your problem. So the reason why is a lot of people are being shortchanged. They're being short paid. They're being bullied to accept substandard repairs because two people are aligning. That's the contractor and the insurance company, and you're going to get the short end of the stick. So let's dive into this. Eduardo, can you please share with the consumer the new laws that are affecting homeowners, commercial owners, that was just signed a couple of months ago by our governor? How are they impacting homeowners? And if they don't look at their properties and make sure that that house, that building, that property, it make sure that doesn't have any wind or hurricane damage. If it passes more than I think you mentioned like 12 months, they're going to be on their own. Can you please light us with that?
Yes, I think the main highlights of the law that was called in by a special session by Governor DeSantis in December, and they conveniently did it right after the hurricane happened. So, I mean, that tells you more than you need to know. But one of the main highlights was that it shortened the time limit for you to report a new claim to an insurance company, which is 1 year. This keeps getting eaten away year by year. A couple of years ago, they switched it down to 2 years. It used to be three, and before that, it used to be five. So they keep eating away at these rights that homeowners have, and now we're down to 1 year. I'm not sure what's next. Um, I don't think you can lower it more than that, but it puts the onus on the homeowner to notice your damages much quicker, especially in a roof claim when you can have roof damage, but not necessarily you won't see the leaks until it permeates through the 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 underlayment and it manifests itself inside the home, and that's when most homeowners notice that they have a problem. So it's important to have professionals like Christopher to inspect your property periodically, so that you know uh, if you have a claim under your policy. Now that these things are not as you don't have as much time to report a claim, it's important to periodically have an individual like that at your house. Uh, Another aspect that really affected the industry as a whole was the fact that they took away my ability to collect attorney fees, which is a problem for homeowners because then their
Mhm.
bottom line gets affected a little bit more. Uh, Before this new change that happened in December, if I was able to get $1 above what the homeowner let's say if I get a $1 increase in court of the homeowner's recovery, let's say if the insurance company pays zero, and then in court, let's say I get them $1, then the insurance company was automatically liable to pay the full extent of my attorney fees. That's what the landscape was before December. Now it's different. Now I'm not allowed to collect attorney fees if I prevail in a case. We're getting around it. There's certain ways that we can play with it. Proposals for settlement, things of that nature. There's procedural ways to get around it, but the default will be, that the homeowner needs to pay an additional percentage, in order for us to uh, to help them out, which wasn't the case back then.
Wow.
Those are the main highlights of this past legislative season. There's some things that were good that happened that create more transparency in the claims process. Like, for example, the insurance company now needs to provide the adjuster's report from a certain amount of time, within a certain amount of time. This started in March. It was passed into law in December, but this specific part of the law started in March, which helps out certain timeframes for submitting coverage determinations and all that have been reduced. So the insurance companies have a little more pressure also, but they did eat away at a good amount of consumer rights. So we just have to continue and play the game how with the cards that we have.
Yeah, what I said, the way I said it, they keep chipping away your rights as a consumer, and really soon they're gonna have none. And all we're gonna do, we're gonna get a bill, and when you need them, they don't do anything. At least that's what we're seeing on the auto. People pay claims, and some of these low tier insurance companies, and they don't even pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. And I tell the consumer, unfortunately, a lot of body shops are not even taking the cars on their repair shops because they're so bad. They're like, this is not even worth dealing with it. So you're in your own, and I feel sorry for those consumers. I don't know if it's happening in the home industry too, but it is bad. Some people don't even want to deal with their insurance. And the sad thing is, you don't know how good your insurance company is. They can advertise all they want. You're gonna know how good they are when you need them the most, and that's after an accident.
Right.
So by now, what Eduardo was explaining, if you hire an attorney with the new laws, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket. So this means if you getting your roof replaced and it's short pay $10,000, you're gonna have to make an informed decision if you either pay the $10,000 and just at least you got your roof repaired correctly, but then you're gonna have to pay the attorney on top to recover that money or recover the difference. But the attorney cannot tell you, hey, if I recover $1, I get my attorney fees. You're gonna have to pay that. So that puts a big predicament to the consumer, where they're gonna have to really be really in line and educated at the time they pick up. They choose their contractor, because if the contractor lowballs the claim, the damages, they don't have a public license adjuster who's writing a good, as close as possible, realistic estimate. The person can get short paid big time, and then they don't have enough money to pay for your services, right?
Right. And I think, on top of that, although the landscape has gotten harder for homeowners, it's not impossible. It's there's still rights, but it makes it even more important to get a professional from the start. It makes it extremely important to hire someone like Christopher from the beginning, because if you don't have someone like Christopher, the value of your claim goes lower because you didn't present it correctly. It's very important for him to cross all the X's and O's of everything that has to be presented to the insurance company timely. So in the case it gets to a person like me at the end, there's a lot of room to wiggle, and the homeowner doesn't get affected at all. So it's very important to hire someone like Chris from the beginning that knows what they're doing.
Wow. And we're going to be talking to Chris. It's not that we're ignoring him, but we Eduardo has another engagement, so we need to let him go. And Eduardo, definitely, we can have just one podcast or several podcasts with you. And I hope you're able to bless our community because there's so much to go over and give people advice. Because the last thing that you want is start looking for an attorney, start looking for a public license adjuster or like a body shop when you need them. Trust me, when the storm hits and everybody needs one, you want to have somebody that you know, like and trust. That way, you're not just going with a fly by night company
Right.
because it's just like any industry. You're gonna have good people and you're gonna have bad people that
Yes.
they don't care about you. And I don't know. This is Juan Rodriguez's personal opinion. I've seen it in the automotive. Not all attorneys are the same. Not everybody helps with property damage. Not everybody helps with diminished value. And I bet in the home claims business is the same. It's like, oh, I don't get involved on that. So they don't go that extra mile for the consumer. So what differentiates your law firm from other law firms?
I think I think the main thing that separates us is that we analyze the claim from the beginning, and if there's any missing links, for example, what caused this, what didn't cause this, there's a good investigation that happens before the case even gets undertaken. Instead of just fighting the lawsuit and just seeing what the response is from there, we try to prepare it as much as we can prior to filing the lawsuit. So then it gives us more leverage for settlement, and it provides a swifter settlement. That's one of the, I think, biggest differentiating factors of other attorneys, that a lot of them just file lawsuits in mass without really analyzing the claim, and the quality goes down, in my opinion. So
Oh,
I think
I'm
that
going to say it. He's not saying I said it. We know of attorneys, firms in this town of Orlando that settle claims in bulk.
yes,
They have already deals with the insurance companies, so you don't get what is fully righteously owed to you. So, but they what they do, they cherry pick the good cases. Those are the ones that get the good treatment, the VIP treatment. The rest, they just go to the big pile, settle them, and those customers get peanuts. And at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to live with the consequences because at the end of the day, they don't make you whole. And if you're not whole, then you're the one losing. So at the end of the day, it's just bad business for you. And they have this rhetoric of making you feel bad because you're protecting your rights. They sold you a contract. If something happens, they're going to be there. That's their business. It's like somebody that cleans sewers for a living. It's really hard if they clean sewers and they clean septic tanks, not wanting to deal with crap. It's their business that they signed up. Insurance companies sign up when people they bet that something is not going to happen. If it happens, they need to pay, and they make billions of dollars. In my opinion, Juan Rodriguez's opinion, it's all just my opinion. I believe all this nonsense saying that the insurance companies are leaving and all that is a game that they're playing to deceive everybody so they could just fund some campaigns and make the law changes that they did because we saw it, the writing on the wall. As soon as in March, this law was already being talked about. You saw how the insurance companies changed their behavior. It was so clear. It's like flipping a switch. And they took the gloves off and they put the knife and the big gun out and they're just blasting people. And because they need to make a profit, because they know that the U.S. economy is taking a dive, and they need to keep those investors happy, and that's the reason why things are the way they are.
it was
Eduardo,
it was aided by a lot of heavy propaganda.
oh yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors, and I can't wait to. That's why I encourage every single consumer get with an expert, Make sure you hire the right contractor, because at the end of the day, the consumer needs to file proper complaints to the Department of Insurance. Have have attorneys like you, have experts like Chris. So they're gonna get so overwhelmed. They're gonna be like, "Oh my God, we cannot abuse people so much." There's allies out there helping them, because that's what happens. They want us shut. They don't want us doing anything. I've been offered to sell my business for millions of dollars just to shut me up and get me out of the business. And I will not sell my business, because I made a promise to my community, to my team, that I am not just going to retire and let this community go to, I make my money, I'm done. No, I want to tell the truth. I want to make sure that the consumer know what's right for them, and I want to service them correctly. And that's why we started the Allies Community Podcast, and that's our promise to the Orlando community. And if you see this in another part of the nation and you need help, email us, text us. I will do whatever it takes to find you a good ally in your country, in your part of the country, because what they're doing, I believe this is Juan Rodriguez's opinion, is criminal and predatory. And the rhetoric about you, because you're going to make a claim, you're the bad guy. I've been in the court. I know how people, they clean the floors with them. They make you feel like you are the scum of the earth, because you're just thinking what's right for you. You're paying thousands of dollars a year on coverage. If something happens, hey, they just need to pay. They got plenty of money. That's what, at least on the automotive, over 7 to 10 billion dollars per company spent in advertising alone. I don't know about homeowners. That's probably even more. Just pay a couple of billion, paying claims rightfully. We are a little speck of those bottom dollars that they have. But how much is enough for them? I don't know. My goal, if I'm able to help at least 2 to 3% of the population in my town, in my state, I can go to heaven and say, you know something, I did my part. Eduardo, what would you tell the Florida consumers? I know you work in other states too. If they see this, what should they do? And I know you got to leave, so give us those closing thoughts, and we're gonna let you go, and then we're gonna talk to the public license adjuster, the guy that is priceless in my book, but people don't know about them. Go ahead, Eduardo.
Just a minor correction. I only work in the state of Florida. I have to be
Oh,
very.
you only work in the state of Florida. I
I
thought you
only I only work in the state of Florida. I have to
good.
say that really clearly. But anyways, I think what a homeowner should do when they're filing a claim is to document. Um, like Christopher said, provide pictures. If you have inspection reports, that's all. That all helps. Causation experts, cost estimates. Present it all to the insurance company, all in a timely fashion, and that should give you a fighting chance to um, have a successful claim.
Awesome.
Documentation.
Documentation beats conversations 100% of the times. Well,
Exactly. Exactly.
thank you very much, Eduardo. Hopefully,
Thank
you
you.
have fun and we could have you in another podcast, but I know you have to go. Thank you
Thank,
very much
thank
for
you.
spending the time
Have
with
a
our.
good day. Thanks for having
All right, Christopher. Now it's your turn on the bat. So, Christopher, tell us why people don't know enough about what is the job, the mission of having public license adjusters in our country, because not enough people know what you guys do and how huge is what you guys do. Because without you guys, this is the wild, wild west.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very particular time right now in Florida specifically. I know other states are going through similar circumstances, but Florida particularly has been going through a lot since before the pandemic hit. They were already knuckling down on a lot of different things that were going on. Now, I want to start this off by kind of piggybacking off of something that you mentioned at the beginning, also, which is I'm not against insurance carriers either. I think that they're a vital part to society, and they're a vital component, right, to the overall working machine that is called the United States. Um, Without, if insurance in Florida specifically or in the U.S. ceased to exist, we would have a very, very, very big problem. Um, so, with that much being said, uh, it is kind of like a between a hard rock between a rock and a hard place for a lot of people, both on the insurance side, being the people that are getting insured, and on the insurer side, being the company handing out the policies. Um, Hurricanes have been battering Florida for a couple years now. We did have about a 10-year hiatus where we didn't have any hurricanes from about 2006 around there until 2017 that Hurricane Irma hit. And everything proceeding after that has been pretty intense. Hurricane Michael hit 2018 at a Category 5 up in the Panhandle, and then the preceding hurricanes. I'm sure I'm missing a couple names, but just to mention a final few is Hurricane Nicole and Hurricane Ian that hit last year, and Ian being September, and Nicole landing in November. With all that activity, right? All that damage coming out, you have a lot of confusion, and you have a lot of homeowners that think things are a certain way, whether because they were told by someone or they heard it from a friend, which is the same thing as being told by someone, right? But sometimes it comes in form of a miscommunication through a friend, but sometimes it comes through a miscommunication of a neighbor. It might doesn't even have to be a friend. It could be someone that just went through the insurance process and they come over to you and they have good intentions, but when comparing insurance claims, or when understanding insurance claims and when to file them and how they work and all that. It all is apples to oranges when you're looking at your neighbor, right? It doesn't matter if your neighbor has your same insurance policy. You guys went through the same event. It's two separate desk adjusters, two separate things you're going to deal with, two separate outcomes. So I would say that it's probably not going to get any better going forward. Like Eduardo said, there's a lot of laws that were passed right after the hurricane, so it's kind of like snuck in there, very sneaky type of stuff. Um, and with those, every time they get passed, yeah, they educate us on it, because as a public adjuster, I receive information every time something like that happens, and I'm able to inform my clients and whatever be. But there's a lot of people that don't hear about it. They don't know about the different things that have happened, and they'll go through a storm or something will happen, and they will wait too long to file a claim, or do something that puts them on the opposite side of the process. It's not that hard to end up on the wrong side of the things when you're
Let me
doing an insurance claim.
let me interrupt you for a second here. Can you explain why our government needs public license adjusters on each state?
Yeah, of course. It's actually a pretty straightforward answer. Um, as long as around insurance policies and homeowners have been disputing, there has been a want and a need for an advocate, so to speak, someone that can represent the homeowner with pure interest of protecting the homeowner from any malice, come from any street vendor or anything like that, or the insurance carrier itself. I've found myself defending homeowners against their own family members. So our jobs were created basically to be a defender of a homeowner. An advocate for is a different word for it, but a defender is a much simpler word for it. We defend them, and we only are compensated once we are successful in defending such individual. So that takes a lot of that out of it, right? Because if you only get paid based off of how good you do something, that puts the pressure on you.
Yeah.
That puts the pressure on you because you gotta show up first. You gotta show out.
And another thing is not all about, oh, let's hire an attorney. No, the reason why you got public license adjusters is to prevent any type of litigation. He's gonna be like that ally. All right, I just want to make sure that you pay this claim in good faith, get the consumer what is righteously owed. He's whole. Hey, we're good here. It's like a referee, pretty much, like an umpire, watching the game, watching the transaction. If we didn't have public license adjusters, it would be just like the automotive. You have the insurance company's employees writing cars, which is none of their business because the job of insurance companies to pay claims. They're nothing. I will say, this is my personal opinion. They're nothing but a bank, and they take bets.
Yeah.
We have no right at all writing how to repair, do repairs, or dictate repairs. They're not repair experts. They're not trained. They're not certified. Their job should be visit the home site, visit the vehicle, look at it. All right, this is house XYZ, location. Yeah, needs a roof. Pay the expert. That's it. Why they get involved on how to repair claims? It just breaks my mind. Most people, the average consumer, doesn't understand. They get away with it because we allow it, and we don't have enough people seeking public license adjusters help. And like in the automotive, there's not a body shops that want to do it because they know they're not going to get the referrals. It's just I just like breaking through all the BS and say it
Yeah.
the way it is raw. Shame on you if you're a vendor and you in bed with the insurance company. You may be making millions, but you know something, at the end of the day, you know you're cheating and deceiving and not giving people what is righteously owed to them. I'm talking to you, straight to you, contractor that does that. If you don't like me, I don't care because you don't send a check and you don't feed my family or feed my employees. My customers do. The community of Orlando is the one behind us, rallying behind us because they know we're seeking what's rightfully owed to them. And we just want to do an awesome repair and make sure that their property doesn't lose value because I did a shitty repair. Excuse my language, but a poor substandard repair. Three huge investments that the people make in this country. First of all, I believe education is key. If you pick a shitty, crappy college, you don't do your due diligence, you're going to waste your money in college. And it's sad that you are going to waste $100,000 of your hard earned money because you're going to have to pay for it. There's no forgiveness. That's not going to happen. Choose where you are right, what you love, and go into that career because you love it, not for the money. That's why education is key. Second, home. We all need a home. And that's the biggest investment that we do after an education. Think about it. A storm comes through. You don't know anything. Some of these lost consultants, I call them storm chasers, they come to your house, knock on your door, they send you now through technology, Facebook. Oh, we're going to give you a gift because they bribe you and you don't know and you hired them. They deal directly with the insurance company. The insurance company dictates everything. And I see it at least in the automotive side, where you have people coming out of town. They're not even from the city that you're in. They come and fix vehicles. And I know it happens on the homes too. Contractors out of the state, they come. Oh, there's a lot of houses that need roofing. And once they're gone, how are you going to collect your warranty? Eduardo, let's talk a little bit about that. Predatory vendors that show up after a catastrophe.
So, Christopher,
Crystal,
um,
Sorry, Christopher.
That's okay. So I think that some of the some of the before the preemptive to so before your question, some of the preemptive before that insurance claim that I think it's important is it starts with your broker, right? It starts with you. So a lot of homeowners, yeah, they're passing these laws, but a lot of these different regulations and things that they're putting on policies now, the homeowner needs to they need to opt for it. So it's
Mhm,
not something it's very important to make it clear that it's not something that's being forced on anybody.
mhm.
Now, is it of course a situation where the majority of them are playing the same game, so it makes it more difficult and your choices are smaller? Okay, maybe, but it definitely isn't being forced, and it's something that homeowners choose. And a lot of times they're able to avoid some of these things that they put on their policies by paying higher premiums. So a
Nobody
big
wants that.
yeah, a big misunderstanding is I see it so often that homeowners opt for having a very low insurance premium throughout the year, so they get a policy that might not be even the it might not be a good company, it might be too small, the some of the language on there might be too aggressive towards you, but they just look at it like it's insurance, so they generalize it, they
Yep.
meaning the homeowner, they generalize it and they think that just because it's insurance it's going to cover everything, and that's couldn't be further from the truth. And the reflection of them paying a low cost, it definitely reflects on what the policy covers, and they really don't understand the severity to that mistake until someone like me is standing in their living room, having inspected the house, them having gone through an insurance claim or damages, so possibly an insurance claim, and I'm sitting there looking at the policy language, comparing it to the damages, deciding if this is something that could be fought for, and only to tell them, hey, you don't have any coverage, you don't have any water coverage, you have a water exclusion, you have a water cap, you can only the damages might be 50,000, but you only have a cap for 10,000. So all you ever receive is 10,000. It doesn't matter if the damage is 100,000. They don't understand the severity to any of that stuff until it's in that position, unfortunately. And that's kind of some of the things that I hope to get in here today and out there is that's one of I have a couple main bullet points, and it's not many of them, but that's one that's the main the beginning of it is it starts at home. It starts with your broker, meaning the person you hire to grab your insurance. That person is just as important as your real estate agent, as your mortgage broker, as anybody else that you would cause a vendor. They're just as important, if not more important, for you in understanding how to do that. And then I would say, as a last note for this specific subject, if you have someone in your corner, it doesn't have to be, of course, me, but if you have someone that you already work with, a public adjuster, someone that is an expert in this industry, and their sole job, because that's what a public adjuster's sole job is to protect and advocate for the homeowner. I I review policies for homeowners that I've settled years ago, and I haven't had a claim with them in many, many years. But they always, year after year, excuse me, they'll send me their insurance policies even after their broker gets it, and they'll tell me, Chris, tell me if there's any red flags here. Tell me if there's anything I need to worry about in case one day you need to get involved. Is there something here that is going to go against me? Is something here that's going to prevent me from fully identifying myself?
That is so powerful because I preach it I've been preaching it for years. Cheap is not always better.
No.
And to find out when you already have the loss, that's bad. That's horrible. Being
Yeah.
underinsured is horrible, guys. Nobody wants a root canal. Nobody wants a heart attack or have cancer. But going through it and not having anything is bad. Here in Orlando, right down the block from me, hundreds of properties they got flooded because they didn't have flood insurance, they had to fix it out of pocket, everything. And to fix a house, the whole house, replace all the property, all the drywall, dry everything. It's not a pretty penny.
No,
It's
so
a little bit more on a policy and have that coverage.
I actually have a recent horror story. And it's not, it's, I say it's a horror story because it's not the worst case scenario. Although I definitely have enough of those stories to go around, it is definitely a very tough situation that this person is going through. And it's similar to what we're saying here, which uh, we had some floods that happened with Hurricane Nicole.
Mm.
When Nicole happened, Nicole came in through Daytona Beach side, so it carried with it a lot of water, just like Hurricane Ian. You know, all these hurricanes tend to carry a lot of water. Um, but what ended up happening is, let's say, particularly in my neighborhood, I had my neighborhood is not considered a flood zone,
Mhm.
right? So if you buy a home in my neighborhood, part of the document process, if it is a flood zone, you'll be required to purchase flood insurance, right? Now, that's not the case here. The chance is so small, it's not existent basically. Now, the rains that happened when this hurricane passed, by some scientists, have been called 100-year rain, meaning that it happens once every 100 years. It's not likely, and it's very, very unusual. Well, the amount of rain that happened caused flooding in my neighborhood, which, by the way, my neighborhood is not supposed to flood. Now, when that flooding occurred in my neighborhood, a lot of homes were consumed in that area. These are not super, super crazy homes, but they're expensive homes. I mean, any home is expensive, any damage is expensive. So they had water come in, about maybe 2 to 3 feet of water in some of these homes. And I know this because these neighbors came up to me to come to say, "Hey, can you look at my house? What's going on?" Only to figure out that nobody had flood insurance in my neighborhood,
Wow.
right? So sometimes you can prepare for something, and sometimes you can't prepare for something. Um, that's how insurance usually works. Insurance insurance is a precautionary thing, right? It's hey, in case this happens.
And it's
Now,
a beautiful thing, Christopher. It's a beautiful thing. The problem is when greed and ignorance get together.
yes,
Because it's a beautiful thing. You spread the risk in a bunch of people. The insurance companies, when there's no losses, they rack billions of dollars. But, but when it's time to pay, that's when greed kicks in, and they don't want to pay, and that's where it boils my blood, and I turn green like
yeah,
Hulk.
yeah,
So, and I remember when we have the floods down the road here, where in my residence, I was one of them, lending people the blowers that we had at the shop because I know they don't have no floods. Like, let's dry this house, rip those carpets. You want to get them dry as soon as possible, because if you just sit thinking that your insurance company is going to do something,
well,
that's
I
not
had a lot of homeowners
going to happen.
I had a lot of homeowners that had to dig into their retirement funds because there was no flood insurance, so they had to dig into their 401ks. They had to dig into all that stuff that, I mean, at some point, I guess you have to dig into it, right? But definitely, that's not why you want to do it, right? And even if you do have insurance, there's some situations sometimes they're just unwinnable. Being an adjuster for almost a decade, I've seen some of the most unfortunate situations. I've seen some situations where people bring it upon themselves, like forced place policies, which is a whole other conversation and a whole other video. Um, but it's technically people that land in that forced place policy category. 90% of them are not very responsible, and they don't make the best financial decisions. Um, So, but some homeowners are very responsible. I've dealt with like let's say elderly people. I've dealt with some elderly people before for this last hurricane that hit, and the water was so much again that there goes that word again, that 100-year water storm. Uh, uh, they had so much water in another part of Central Florida. I had a homeowner's home that was sitting on a canal, and it had a retention wall in the back of the home. The retention wall goes throughout all the homes because it protects the homes from the water and all that stuff on the other side of it. Now, you might not think of it if you've never done any construction, but a retention wall is a very expensive thing. Retention walls can almost go up to six figures depending on how much of it you need and how much space it's covering. Now, this homeowner had so much water occur that the retention wall gave out
Wow.
and the land started to be consumed by the canal, and the house has been condemned as of now because it's starting to suffer from foundational cracks and settlement cracks and foundational issues because the land is being sucked into the water, and the county, the Central Florida, I don't want to really name any specifics, but the county doesn't know. They keep doing meetings with all these homeowners, and they're doing like council meetings, and they're getting together to try to figure it out. And they maybe as of now, if something could be different, but I mean, dating back a couple months ago, they weren't able to figure it out, and that's already post year after the hurricane, even longer, and they still hadn't figured it out, and they didn't know how they were going to figure it out. And homeowners, let's say that they were covered, this specific homeowner had a coverage for $450,000 for the home. Well, the problem with that is no home right now is being sold for $450,000, and you can't rebuild that home for $450,000 in that area. So even if, God forbid, that house gets sucked into the canal, the homeowner is more than likely looking at selling the land, cutting her losses, taking the money from what she can, from what she's been paid for, and trying to move on with their life. Because one thing that they definitely won't be able to do is rebuild their home from scratch there. Definitely not with the money that they'll receive after depreciation and everything that's accounted into it. So there's opportunities to still end up in a pretty bad situation, even if you have insurance. And that's why it kind of begs back to the beginning. It goes back to the beginning that you got to be very careful in what you're getting. And you got to make sure you have a professional evaluating your policies to tell you, hey, heads up, if this happens, you're in big trouble or you're going to have a big problem.
I'm going to put Christopher on the spot here. Hopefully, he'll follow through. Christopher, can we have you do just a podcast to go over policy, what to look for, what are the red flags of a bad policy, so we can teach and educate our community on
Absolutely.
awesome. Thank you very much. So you hear it, community? He's gonna do it for us because I'm one of them. I'm green when it comes to homeowner insurance. This is something that now, because of the calling that I have, I'm getting involved, and I went through cancer. Now I know a little bit about cancer. So it's amazing what the path that sometimes the good man upstairs will make you walk through, so you can just help others. And I'm gonna tell you, in my personal opinion, I am so blessed to be able to find out about a public license adjuster, what they are, what they do, and be able to get with Christopher, because he was able to open my eyes and be like, man, you know, your financial well-being can be bigly impacted if you don't do the right thing. So how often, Christopher, did you recommend a homeowner to do an actual home inspection and document it?
I think that I think homeowners should subject their homes to inspections. I think two things should trigger an inspection. Either a time frame has gone by and you should do it kind of like you do a physical for your body,
Mhm.
or you should do it after an event, even if you think that you're unharmed by said event. So the time frame I would put on getting an insurance adjuster a public insurance adjuster to do an inspection on your house to make sure everything is according, I would say at least once a year, right? Or at least once every 6 months, you want them to come by to make sure that everything's okay. At the very, I would say once a year is a good spot to be at, right? Or if a weather event occurs in your area, and that's another thing, to be specific, earlier you had mentioned that I'm like an umpire. There's actually umpires in this industry, and that's another conversation. This industry is massive, and you could spend days talking about it. There's so many different job titles and different people and components and moving pieces that it really does get complicated sometimes, but not really. It's just a lot to explain. But an umpire is actually somebody that does exist within the insurance realm, and they get involved during disputes to try to settle between public adjusting parties that are fighting, public adjusting, and insurance parties that are fighting. And they're a third party person that gets involved. But that's digressing a little bit. So I would say that a weather event is not specifically, a lot of homeowners, and this is kind of goes back to not knowing, they end up not claiming something, but because they think that the only things that could be claimed are hurricanes or something major. Something doesn't need to be major to be claimed. I've done claims in homeowners' houses that have had a toilet leak that affected the base molding, and the base molding to the house is granite, and the floors are granite, and the base molding to the house matches the floors, and the water caused the base molding to crack, and because of that little crack in that little base molding around the vanity of the bathroom, I got the homeowner $147,000 settlement for just a little tile that was cracked in that home. Not knowing is a big thing, right? And a lot of times that's where that word identification comes into play. Identification is the process of returning someone to prior lost condition.
Mm-hmm.
And part of identifying somebody is matching the materials. So in other words, whatever is replaced needs to match whatever was there before. So if the floors are continuous, if the roof is continuous, it needs to match. Now, not to digress again, so to go back to what I was saying is, if you've gone through a weather event, especially in Central Florida, there's a lot of hailstorms, and the more north you go, the more of these hailstorms are popular. If you go through a hailstorm, if you go through a tornado, if you go through what seems like a very severe storm that maybe doesn't have any hail, but it just seems like a very severe storm, a couple of your things may be knocked over. When things like this happen, it's kind of like when you think you have a cold or you think something's going on, you go to the store and you buy vitamin C, you go and you make your virtual visit with the doctor. If it gets bad enough, you might be given antibiotics. You take your steps and your precautionary stuff. The same thing should happen when there's a damage that occurs on your property. You should have a process that's essentially ignited whenever it's like a tripwire. Whenever something walks by that tripwire and it trips it, your mind should automatically go into a mode where you're processing the situation and you're thinking about, well, let me make sure that everything's okay and nothing's occurred, because now I only have a year to figure that out.
Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. And insurance companies love to prey on ignorance. If you don't know something and you don't seek professional help, they don't care. They're not gonna come knocking on your door and tell you, hey, your roof needs to be replaced. They're gonna tell you when it's like, oh yeah, I don't want that liability, change it, or we're gonna drop you.
Yeah.
They'll do that. But the sad thing is, I don't charge anything to do a free post repair inspection or a pre-purchase inspection on a used car. Christopher, how much you charge to inspect the people's houses?
It's absolutely free.
It's free. But people think, oh, if I'm gonna get a public license adjuster, or I'll take it to the body shop that is well known and it's gonna be more pricey. Come on, guys. The insurance company has one job, is to pay claims. And if you play the game of getting three estimates and they choose the cheapest one, you're definitely living in a world where you believe in ponies and the Easter Bunny. You will never pick somebody because he's the cheapest. Cheap is not always better. What do? I encourage everybody, shop around, interview the vendor, take a shop tour, ask for referrals, happy customers.
Check he,
Then,
check he has insurance.
yep, see, ask people, have you ever used this insurance company? Because
That
I see it all the time. Who would you guys recommend for my home insurance? My insurance went up, and everybody's like barking their, oh, this one gave me a great deal. It's like, have you ever made a claim? Probably not. That's when you know. That's why I'm going to give credit here to one insurance company that I respect. And I tell anybody, if you're able to be insured by them, do it. It's Chubb Insurance.
they're
They do
fantastic.
what's right. They do what's right for the consumer.
They're a good company.
You're going to pay a premium. They're just like Allyz Auto. You're going to pay a premium, but you get your money's worth and some more.
Yeah. And
That's
you know,
the insurance company that I pretty much endorse, and they don't pay me a dime. They
no,
actually asked me to become one of their contracted vendors, and I told them, you know something? I appreciate it. I love doing business with you guys, but not thank you.
yeah,
I am not affiliated with any insurance company, and I love you guys. But as soon as I sign a contract, I will be serving the wrong master. I am
yeah.
not going to serve the insurance master.
I
But
also don't have any connection.
I give you kudos. Everybody that comes here, they get the red carpet treatment. And those people, I tell them, it's a stress-free claim because they do what's right. They pay to the expert for a proper and safe repair. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, no, no. I was actually interrupting you. I was just thinking of something while you were talking. You touched up on something important, which is the contractor subject, right? And I feel like that's a good that might be a good place to end this because we're approaching 4 o'clock here now. But I would say that another really important point that I wanted to make was I wanted to touch bases on this vendor subject, okay? Because this vendor subjects it can be very confusing, and it's also a big subject, and it's a big elephant in the room.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, and I know a lot of them. They're gonna be upset about this podcast, but shame on you. I don't care. You don't send me a check. So if
yeah,
you want me to give you kudos, give you credit, hey, just do what's right for the consumer, and that consumer, I will be interviewing them, and they're gonna brag how good of a company you are. But if you did a horrible job, I already have a list of consumers who they're going to share with you guys here in our community the horror stories of what happened during that loss, during that event of they were ill on and they needed the health insurance to take care of them. When they got into a car accident, they didn't take care of them. When they needed their house roof leak fixed, and they just treat them like dirt. Shame on them. This is the beauty of this country. You can say and give your opinion, and you can let others. And this is the beauty of these platforms on YouTube, Facebook, all the social media platforms. We're able to speak our mind and tell the truth because that's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. And I know these seeds are gonna fall in good ground, that people are gonna see this podcast and they're gonna be like, something? These people, I can see there may not be the most professional, they may not have the best flashy podcast, but they're talking from the heart. They're
yeah,
talking because they really want to help the consumer, because it breaks my heart seeing people being taken advantage all the time. The people
yeah.
who have money, they just hire an attorney, pay them, they get what is righteously owed to them. But you know something? Those professionals, they know better, and they insure themselves with good companies.
Yeah. Well, so the vendor problem is vendors are also just like insurance company, a very vital part to the process. not as vital as insurance companies, but they're also vital, right? Because they are the contractors of this community. They're the ones who get the work done. So they play essentially an important role also. Now, where it gets kind of lost in translation is you have these roofing companies and restoration companies, whether it be a water restoration, a mold restoration, a fire, um, whether it be a contractor and that contractor be a roofer or just a regular contractor. You have these forms called direction of pays or assignment of benefits, and they were actually much stronger a couple years ago, and they've kind of diminished their power a little bit as these, excuse me, as these laws have been being passed. But they're not. It's not completely powerless. The form still holds people to a certain extent hostage to that person that you signed it with. And what do I mean by hostage? I mean, your claim is your claim. I get involved, but as your representative, you being the homeowner. Now, at a certain point, once my job's done, I collect off of what I'm able to get you from the insurance carrier. Once that job's been completed, my job's been done. If a contractor that has no say in adjusting, cannot have a say in adjusting,
Mhm.
cannot do anything besides have you sign that paper and then stand next to the insurance company as they're valuing whatever they're looking at. It's almost like they're throwing wet noodles to the wall to see what sticks,
Yes.
right? And in doing that, here comes the hostage situation. You get a settlement, and this is if and when you get it, because it happens at the time that you get it, whether it's at the beginning and the insurance company says fine, we'll pay you, and all of a sudden just it's not it's, trust me, it's not coincidence. The contractor's estimate ends up being a reflection of what the insurance company is paying for. Well, we all know that homeowners have the right to shop around and to try to see what's the not only what's the best price, but who's the best company. And all of a sudden, how is it that this contractor is landing on the same exact penny for penny, dollar for dollar number that the insurance company is landing on? That which, by the way, the contractor only knows about said number because you signed that paper, which gave him rights to have certain information over certain stuff, but it doesn't give him rights to do anything besides that because he doesn't have a license to adjust. It causes a lot of problems between homeowners and these companies, and that's why their forms have diminished power a little bit with all these laws that have been passed recently. Because Florida's been trying to kind of mediate some of it, and they've been trying to, avoid some of these arguments and some of these conflicts that have been going on. But it still stands that these guys are finding loopholes. They're getting attorneys that are not as honest as I'm sure the attorney that was on here that works, with homeowners. There's a lot of attorneys, just like in any industries, you're going to have bad apples, and you're going to have those bad apples that go with these roofing companies, and they almost uh, almost antagonize the situation, and tell the roofer, don't worry about it, you're not violating anything if you go through me, and I'm the guy that does that everything, and I'm the guy that does the lawsuit, and I handle everything. So now the roofer holds the client hostage to whatever price they get, and the attorney is going to get 20, 30, whatever percent out, on top of that. It turns into a conundrum, right? It turns into a conundrum, and I've seen it more times than I would like to admit. It actually is that if we're talking here in numbers, it's probably an epidemic. An epidemic meaning because it doesn't seem like it's going to go away. It doesn't feel like it's going to go away. These contractors are finding ways around it. They're finding ways to be able to continue to tie homeowners in, and then the part that's crazy is even after a homeowner signs the paper and let's say it does nothing happens, which is most of the time, and then I come around and I get involved, I send documentation, I get an estimate out, I negotiate the claim, I try to get everything done. Well, here comes the funniest part of the whole thing, and by funny nobody's laughing. At the end of the whole process, once I get the homeowner X amount of funds, guess whose name comes on the check also? Roofing company or whoever you signed that document with. that had nothing to do with the adjustment of it, had nothing to do with the negotiating of it, with the battling, had nothing to do with anything of it. The only thing that they had to do with it was that they got in front of you and convinced you to sign a piece of paper and you signed it. So now they have a right to it because you signed it, not because they actually have a right to it, like they did something for it, right? So I always tell homeowners, hey, the only people that you should ever hire are people that have been created by your state to be able to help you with those things. So my license was created by the state of Florida. I'm governed by the Department of Financial Services. I'm regulated by them, right? So it's kind of like you wouldn't hire your best friend to be your real estate agent. You would hire an actual licensed real estate agent because they have a license. Whether they're good at it or not is another question. But you got to start with the license. That's a starting point, right? Is you got to get someone that is allowed to do what you need done. And that's how you can avoid getting in a bad situation. Because some homeowners might go, well, how do I know who to sign and who not to sign? Well, yeah, are public adjusters the only people that I should sign their contracts? Well, all I'm saying is, if you need to sign a contract for someone and that person you're signing a contract for cannot do anything for you on the said problem that's in front of you, then a good starting point in that moment is not signing that contract.
Run away, guys, run away. Because the worst thing you could do, somebody comes knocking on your door after a hailstorm, they sign a contract. First of all, they're not licensed, or they work for a contractor or maybe a brokerage company. So what do? They and don't get me in this bandwagon because it just boils my blood. Shame on those roofing companies that they advertise themselves. They're huge, like the big 600-pound gorilla in town. But at the end of the day, they don't even tell you have a subcontractor doing your roof. Correct. And they're the ones that source the material, everything. And they tell the I hate to use this word, a poor contractor, the ignorant contractor that doesn't know any better, that he cannot market himself, he cannot create a reputation on the city, and he's just grabbing the little crumbs that big gorilla gives him. And then they're doing a subpar repair, and that middle guy make a ton of money, and he didn't even touch the roof. Guys, this is what's happening in this country. A lot of people are being deceived.
Always shop around. Always shop around. Get yourself multiple estimates. Yeah. It's kind of like when you're playing poker. And I don't know if this is the best example of what I'm trying to say, but it's you never want to show someone your hand. You don't want someone to see your hand. It's it goes hand in hand with, if they see your hands, well, now that's why their invoice is matching the amount that you have. And that's another thing. I tell homeowners all the time, you don't need to disclose that you did an insurance claim. No one needs to know.
Price, how much it is, your due diligence, and pay them.
There you go. Hey, give me a price. I want to get this done. I want to get a new roof. What's your estimate? I again, countless homeowners get into these long conversations with contractors thinking that they're their friends. Hey, make a friend online, make a friend at church. Don't make friends with these guys. These guys are professionals. They're not there to be your friend. They're there to do a job, and you need to treat them as such. No one's asking you to be rude or to be standoffish. It's just a simple transaction, right? The person sitting in front of you is not your friend, right? He's a roofer. So yeah, he could be friendly, but he's not your friend. He has a family to feed, just like you have a family to put a roof over their head. So I always tell homeowners, there's no need to disclose that you have any insurance proceeds. There's no need to disclose that you did a claim. They're not involved in that. They don't need to know. It's not their right. It's not their business. You just need to tell them, hey, I need an estimate, and you take it from there, because that's your right. The more privacy you have on your side, the more that you have a chance that things are going to come out good for you.
One thing I wanna, since you talked about estimates, how accurate can an estimate be when it comes to a roof because at least in our world on the collision side, it's really hard to write an accurate report of all the losses until the car is disassembled, measured, and follow and read all the manufacturer guidelines, because a Toyota is not fixed like a BMW. So how hard it is in your industry to be that accurate, and you're able to submit what is called a supplement in
Yeah.
our world. Okay.
So there's different variety of reasons why a person like myself having a license like the one I have would get involved with the homeowner. And it's a very, very long list, but some of those things could be a claim from the beginning. It could be a claim that's been denied, so already filed. It could be a claim that has been paid already, so it's not been denied, but maybe it's been underpaid and there's some money that's left to be argued, right? So they're agreeing on items, but not really necessarily on scope, on pricing. So there's the way that I'm able to be more accurate with myself is we use a system that goes based off of a pricing, right? They go based off of pricing off of a construction pricing list. Now, prices vary, right? You said a true statement. Prices vary from contractor to contractor, vendor to vendor. Different people are going to price different things, and that doesn't necessarily mean because one guy says he'll do it for 12,000, and the next guy that says he'll do it for 22,000. It doesn't necessarily make the guy that says it's 22,000 a bad guy. You have to really look at it. It's all perspective. Is the guy that's doing it for 12 undercutting the guy for 22? What's the industry standard? Because there is an industry standard. Now, there is price gouging that can occur. There is material shortages that can cause price gouging. So there's different components that can trigger an event that can make things more expensive. But you need to make sure that you confirm those events are actually happening. Because if you got a guy telling you that there's a shingle shortage and you only have one estimate from one guy, this is back to what we were saying, you need multiple estimates because some guys might not be as honest. The next guy might tell you shingle shortage, $750 a shingle. They're doing it for $500 a shingle, and there's no shortage. I could do it for you, you know. So in that case, the guy charging the 750 is overpricing, right? But let's say that the home is located in, a very affluent area, and it's the area has a different building code, and there's different components that go into that home. Because of the size of it, there could be different add-ons that the roof has that a normal size home won't have, right? So there's a lot of factors that can play into these different things that will change that pricing, right? But I always gauge it at the industry norm. So what does that mean? I know for a fact, not only because I'm an investor, but because I am I endow myself in this industry, and I rub elbows with anybody that I could, honestly, to try to get any information I can on current pricing for things, right? And you'll talk to roofers and they'll tell you as clear as day, hey, we're charging $500 a square. We're charging $650 a square, right? I never, part of being good at what you do is understanding that it takes a village. It takes a group, right? Even the most confident person that's very knowledgeable will need a mentor or will need advice from time to time. I do check in with some construction consultants from time to time as a company as a whole to make sure that our pricing makes sense and it's somewhere where it's in a norm, right? And that also depends where we're working, because when we're working in Mariana, it's different than when we're working in Miami, than when I'm working in Chicago. So I think that you confused Eduardo earlier. I'm the one that's licensed in different states. Um, uh, uh, Eduardo isn't as of yet, but even in Chicago, I'm experiencing different things over there that I never experienced in Florida, because Chicago's built by brick and mortar. It's not built through concrete. So the building code's completely different there, and the pricing for things are just polar opposite to what it is here. Not in a negative way, but if you go to Chicago trying to play Florida prices, you're going to overpay because Florida's more expensive. So it's just those different things that go into that factor, and we check in it every so often to make sure that we're standing on the right side of it. No one's ever perfect all the time, but we try to definitely be on the right side of it as much as possible.
And this is the beauty. This is, correct me if I'm wrong. You hire a public license adjuster. He'll come look at the house, prepare his estimate because it's an estimate. It's an introduction of what it could be to
Yes.
it. Once you get paid, you find a contractor. Contractor starts ripping the roof. He
No,
sees damage underneath.
I don't
And
find the contractor.
no,
The
no,
ho-
no. The homeowner. The
yes,
homeowner. One.
yes, yes.
Only get they get the money, they get paid. Now they have their own contractor. The contractor already gave them an estimate. The contractor doesn't have X-ray vision either, so
No,
he's gonna write based on what he sees, an introduction of what it could be. If you document that there's more damage, that's in our world is called supplement. You call your public license adjuster. Hey, there's more damage. I believe his duty is to, hey, we need to send this to the insurance company because there's more damage, or that doesn't work that way in the home.
not only is it the public adjuster's duty to do that, he doesn't get paid unless he does that, right? The sole base of his existence is he only gets involved. He being the public adjuster, someone licensed like myself, only gets involved is there if there's a conflict or something to adjust. It's kind
So
of like something's a total loss, right? Like let's say a fire happens and the home is wiped off the face of the earth, right? Um, if it's considered a total loss and it is in fact declared a total loss by the insurance carrier, I can't get involved because there's nothing to adjust. It's been declared a total loss. They're paying the full policy limit. In order for my job to have value, there needs to be a dispute or a possible pending dispute. So meaning I'm filing the claim brand new and I'm going through it from the A to Z. Sometimes I get involved and it's already at D, right? It's already denied. And then I get involved and I got to take it from D back to P, which is paid. So, it just all kind of it all varies depending on where the case lands.
and correct me if I'm wrong. I know we've been waiting. You see, I told you once we go through this rabbit hole, we start talking. It's going to be hard because one thing leads to another, and we are so passionate of what we do that we just want to give back to our communities and educate them because it breaks our heart seeing how people take advantage. This is one scenario. Hurricane comes through. I call my insurance company. They come. They send the adjuster. He gets $5,000 to replace the roof. He's like, you know something? I don't have any leaks. I don't see anything huge. I'm just going to keep the $5,000 and not fix it. Then a year and a half, 2 years down the road, your roof starts leaking. And then you hire a contractor to come and look at your roof. And he says, I hate to tell you this, but I did a proper inspection and to replace your roof is $12,000.
Mhm.
What are you going to do, consumer? You don't
So
gain by doing this on your own, thinking that you're going to put $5,000 in your pocket and then you're going to find somebody to do it cheaper. If the insurance company give you 5, it's because the claim is worth 12.
okay, yes, I agree with that. If they give you where there's 5, there's 10, and where there's 10, there's 20, right?
Yep.
So I agree with that. Now, I would say that for homeowners that file claims and receive undisputed payments and decide not to do anything about it, and maybe wait and another storm happens and then the damage is worse, so they go, well, this damage is a lot worse, so this one will be better. It is a very delicate situation. That is a very, 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 very thin ice that person is walking on, and I'll tell you why. You don't need to be guilty of something to be charged with it. That's why
Yep.
manslaughter exists, right? Manslaughter exists for the fact that if you cause harm to someone or something happens, someone dies as a result of it, you're charged, right? Not with first degree murder because you weren't preemptive about it and you weren't thinking or whatever, and all the other degrees, but you still get manslaughter because your actions resulted in someone and they resulted in a consequence, right? Whether it was on purpose or not, that's the manslaughter part, right? It wasn't on purpose. Now, in the insurance industry for doing these claims, when filing a claim, when you're paid already for something and you go to file another claim and you haven't fixed a material that's been paid before, if you get paid for that material a second time, which chances are you probably won't, but if you do get paid for that, it doesn't matter if it was 10 years ago when you first got paid for the first time. Why? Because insurance companies all send information to SIU I believe that's the name, SIU, which is a fraud department. They get all the pictures and all the claims and all the things that have been filed, and it doesn't matter if you had State Farm 10 years ago and now you have Progressive. They know that State Farm paid you because it's public records that gets sent in, and people know about that stuff. And insurance companies, whether it be a new one or not, will be able to see that for your record that you were paid for something. So even though you might think, meaning the homeowner might think that there's nothing being wrong here, and they're going to go ahead and file the claim, and it's no big deal because I got five before and now I need more and I didn't, whatever. That's fraud. And I know of a homeowner that's been arrested because of that, because she had a bathroom claim she did years ago, got paid for it, never fixed it, did another claim now, got paid for the bathroom again, didn't disclose to the public adjuster that they had gotten paid 10 years ago, didn't think anybody would know any different. Insurance company figures it out, files fraudulent charges against the homeowner goes to jail. I mean, and she's just old lady, and you're like, well, what a second, what's going on here? Well, it doesn't have to be malicious. It doesn't have to be with malicious intent, and it doesn't have just not knowing, right, and doing something without knowing, and that's where the professional expertise comes into play. Doing something on your own, right? Especially when you don't know what you're doing, there's worse things than just your claim being denied. And this is not to scare anyone to hire anyone. It's just realistically, it's like walking into court without counsel, whereas you would have gotten 1 year because you're saying all this stupid stuff. You might end up serving 50 years in prison. You know, so like I said, and I keep saying, it's perspective. It's all how you go about it. Also it's a lot of pride swallowing. You need to just get that pride out of the way. A lot of homeowners think that because they're a doctor, they're an engineer, they're a scientist, they work for NASA, they're special forces with the military. They build bombs, or they diffuse bombs in the military. Yes, you could be a very intelligent person. You could have worked for the CIA. You could be a very capable human being. But that doesn't mean that you know what you're doing when it comes to insurance claims. And just because you're 60 and I'm 29 doesn't mean that I know less about what I'm doing or you know more because you've been alive longer. That is a very, very ignorant way to go about life, and I deal with it a lot. So it's just another point that I would make.
One thing that I tell people: never take advice on how to collect the money from the person that owes it to you. And only a fool will show on court unrepresented without an attorney, because that's crazy. But I see it on the automotive side all the time. Oh, the person got hit on the left side of the bumper. It was a little tap. They got paid $500 to repair the car. Is probably 1,000 to 1,200. Then a year down the road, they get somebody else hit them on the right side of the bumper, little tap. Then they don't know that all these insurance communicate with themselves, and they got pictures, they got databases, and like, oh yeah, you had a claim a year and a half ago, you got compensated this much to repair the right rear bumper. It was supposed to be replaced. You never replaced it. I'm sorry, but we're just not going to pay this claim. Or they pay you 50% because they only damaged the right side, which was 50% of the bumper, and you already, it can get convoluted. So if you think, Florida consumer, Orlando community, if you think you're going to outsmart an insurance company, that's why that's why they own the big buildings on every, and they got all the commercials. They got, because They
The
know.
propaganda, they got everything on their side. They got the propaganda, they got the fear. A lot of homeowners don't even file claims because of fear. Imagine that. Imagine paying for a service that the sole purpose of paying them is to call them when something happens, but you always don't want to call them and you're scared to call them.
It's a beautiful business to be in.
I almost
Unfortunately,
want to own an insurance company.
but this is one thing that we could be talking for hours. But I believe we gave a little tip of the iceberg, and this is gonna erupt. And I know customers and clients and other people are gonna be waiting for more podcasts like this because let's let's be crudely truthful, and nobody's doing it. Why? Because most people are in the insurance company's pockets
Yeah.
and they're making millions. And the guy who's not doing it, he's being blacklisted, he's being persecuted because he's letting you know, the consumer. And you know something? The beauty of this, I can get up every day and look at all my customers. If I see them at the grocery store, at the game, how are you? How's your car doing? Because I didn't deceive them. But when you put junkyard parts, when you put replica parts, counterfeit parts, you do a crappy roof job, you put a really cheap underlayment, you didn't follow manufacturer's guidelines on that roof. You're not even certified to install that roof, and you told that person you were certified, shame on you. Because when you're going to file a warranty claim on the roof that they sold you or on the repair of your vehicle that says has 10, 20-year warranty, you call the manufacturer and say, oh yeah, XYZ contractor, he's not certified by us. I'm sorry, but we're not going to honor the product warranty. That's what happens when you don't do your job and you don't do your due diligence. You will get scammed. And trust me, there's plenty of people who will scam you with a smile and they'll take your money. I know plenty of body shops in this town, big body shops. They have multi chains all over the nation, and they will tell you with a straight face that replica counterfeit parts are better for your car because they are backed by a warranty. I don't know, but last time I checked, dead people don't claim warranties. If I use a used component at a car that has been in a wreck, maybe on a Grand Theft Auto, police pursuit, that suspension component could be compromised. But a brand new one from the dealer is good. I don't know much about homeowners, home claims, but I'm telling you, if it's just 5% of what's happening in the automotive industry, is rotted too. And my goal is to keep finding experts like Eduardo and Christopher to help me expose the truth. Because that's all we want to do. It's better to lose. Typically, what's the average fee of a public adjuster, Christopher?
During state of emergencies, it's 10%. Outside of state of emergencies, it's 20.
Okay.
I would say as a last departing message, I would like to say, you know, make sure. Obviously, we've already spoken about making sure you look at your policies and you make sure that someone checks them out to make sure that they're good. You get a good broker. You get all that good stuff. Um, eh, do yourself a favor. If there's a hurricane on the way, um, grab your items, put them in a plastic bag, put them inside a high rack, maybe in the closet. Um, put them in a safe somewhere. What papers? Your insurance papers, the deed to your home, your social security cards, your passports, your licenses. Those things you want to put in a plastic bag and always safeguard it in a high area. And you always want to document with pictures and a video, a walk around video of your home before the storm touches it.
That's one couple of the subjects that we can probably do a whole podcast about that.
Yeah.
Preparing before a storm, and but it's better. Me, I'm 47 years old. I've been through a lot in this life. I prefer losing, not losing. Is I'm paying for a service to make sure I have peace of mind. I prefer paying 10 to 20% to an expert to make sure that I'm not being taken advantage, that make a huge mistake that then I'm going to regret. I have nobody to fault. He's a licensed professional and he's not going to put his license on the line. And that's what we do at Allyz Auto. We hold the insurance companies licensed experts to their licenses and to their contract. And that's why they hate us, because unfortunately, I wish there was public license adjusters in the automotive field, because it will save me so much hassle, because I'm doing it. I'm
Yeah.
doing pretty much that job as a kindness of my heart, because I don't get paid to do it. I just get paid to do the repairs. But I wish I could just come and go and talk to this expert. He'll make sure that you get indemnified so you can hire me. And that's so much easier. It will be definitely, as the name of your company, stress free.
No,
Stress free.
no stress insurance claims. Ha ha.
Yes, because it's not the case on automotive. And that's why they will drown guys like me with delay, deny, defend. So you get tired, worn out, and your facility is full of cars. You're not generating an income, and you got to pay your employees. And all they do, they sit back and relax and enjoy. It's like, look, he's going to go out of business. But you know something, Orlando community, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for all the referrals, because that's what I work for every day, to get my customers referrals, and they keep telling others. The more they oppress us, the more we multiply, because we're doing the right thing for the right reasons for the right people. And that's why Allyz Community Podcast gave birth, because it's all about empowering, educating, and edifying the consumer so they can make informed decisions. But we gotta go, because we could probably have three to 10 more podcasts with this guy, but we don't want to keep you, hold on, ransom here, hostage. If you love this podcast, if you enjoyed it, it brought value to you, please like, please subscribe, share with your family, and always, when you need an expert, seek their help, because that's what we're doing. And these two experts that were here and the attorney that it was here, we are here to serve you, and we just a phone call away. And at least myself and Chris, we don't charge for our services. We only get paid if we get the job and we do the job well done for you. So this is Juan Rodriguez letting everybody know to have a blessed weekend and a blessed week. And we'll see you next week on the next Allyz Community Podcast. Please, Christopher, any closing thoughts for our people?
I would just say I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here and for my voice to be heard on any type of platform. I always think that whenever I'm delivering information that is making people's lives a lot easier and better, it's a job well done and a day well done. And I could definitely close my eyes and look forward to the next day. So it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for taking your time being with us. And I'm going to say it again. Never take advice from the person that owes you the money, and only a fool will show at a court of law without legal representation. This is Juan Rodriguez, your consumer ally, the Allyz Community Podcast. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.